McDonald's was unusually busy that afternoon, families filling booths, kids rushing for Happy Meals, and the smell of fries in the air. Among the crowd sat a man in yellow, quietly minding his own business. It was Keanu Reeves. Despite being one of the most recognizable actors in the world, he blended in, sitting humbly with a tray of food, hoping for just a peaceful lunch. But fate had other plans. Out of nowhere, a small boy in a blue shirt approached him. His eyes were wide, filled with fear. He didn't ask for an autograph. He didn't ask about movies. Instead, he leaned close to Keanu's ear and whispered something so chilling, so unexpected, that the actor's calm expression instantly shifted. Keanu's face went pale. His eyes darted toward the entrance, where a towering man in a bright yellow suit was glaring at the boy with clenched fists. The child trembled, and before anyone else in the restaurant understood what was happening, the boy suddenly wrapped his arms tightly around Keanu, whispering again, "Please, I need your help, sir." The restaurant fell silent. Everyone watched in confusion, but Keanu didn't hesitate. He pulled the boy closer, shielding him with one arm while his other hand reached for his phone. The way his fingers shook as he dialed 911 told everyone this wasn't a movie scene. It was real. The question now hung in the air. What did that little boy reveal to Keanu Reeves that made him call the police instantly? And why was the man in yellow so desperate to stop him? The restaurant had gone eerily quiet. Fries sizzled behind the counter, but no one paid attention. Every eye was locked on the strange scene unfolding in the corner booth. Keanu Reeves clutching a trembling 5-year-old boy while a furious man in yellow paced like a predator only feet away. Keanu's voice was low but firm as he spoke to the 911 operator. "This is an emergency. I'm at a McDonald's off Route 17. A child is in danger." His words sent a ripple of unease through the crowd. Mothers pulled their children close. The employees froze mid-shift. The man in yellow suddenly slammed his fist on the table so hard that drinks spilled. "Give me the kid now," he growled, his voice carrying enough menace to silence even the busiest room. But Keanu didn't move. His arm tightened around the boy protectively. "You're safe," he whispered to the child. "Nobody's going to hurt you." "Not while I'm here." The boy's next words, though barely audible, made Keanu's chest tighten. "He's not my dad. He took me." Keanu's heart pounded. Now he understood why the child had run to him. This wasn't just a frightened boy. This was a desperate cry for rescue. The man in yellow leaned forward, his eyes flashing with anger. "He's lying. He's my nephew. We're leaving now." He reached for the boy's arm, but Keanu quickly shifted, blocking him with a sudden strength that startled everyone. Gasps echoed through the restaurant. Some bystanders reached for their phones, others whispered nervously, unsure if this was real or some elaborate prank. But one look at Keanu's pale, serious face told them this was deadly real. From outside, the faint wail of sirens began to pierce the tension. Keanu's eyes flickered toward the sound, relief in them, but also urgency. He knew seconds mattered. He needed to stall until the police arrived. "Sit down," Keanu said firmly, his voice low but commanding. "If you take one more step toward this child, you'll regret it." The man in yellow hesitated, his fists clenching, his jaw twitching. The boy buried his face in Keanu's chest, whispering again, "Please don't let him take me." The sirens grew louder. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. And then, just as the flashing red and blue lights filled the windows, the man in yellow made his move. The moment felt frozen in time. Keanu could hear the faint rattle of trays, the nervous whispers of families, and the thundering heartbeat of the little boy pressed against his chest. Outside, the flashing lights of approaching patrol cars splashed across the restaurant's windows. But inside, the danger had already reached its peak. The man in yellow lunged forward. His towering frame loomed over the booth, his voice erupting like a storm. "Give him to me, now!" His hand shot toward the boy's arm, but in a swift, instinctive motion, Keanu intercepted. His grip locked around the man's wrist, iron strong yet calm, the way only someone trained in discipline could manage. Gasps filled the air as the two men locked eyes, one radiating rage, the other a cold, controlled determination. "You're not taking him anywhere," Keanu said, his voice low, steady, and cutting through the tension like a blade. The boy clung tighter, tears streaking his cheeks, whispering through trembling lips, "He's lying. Please don't let him take me." The crowd began to stir phones out, recording, whispering louder now. Some people were already crying. A few brave bystanders stepped closer, trying to create a human barrier, but none dared challenge the man in yellow directly. His presence was too menacing, his anger too unpredictable. For a heartbeat, the man's face twisted as if weighing his options. Then, in a burst of fury, he shoved the table aside. Food trays crashed to the floor, drinks spilled, and frightened children screamed. He pointed a shaking finger at Keanu. "You have no idea what you're getting yourself into." He spat. "This is bigger than all of you." Keanu didn't flinch. His hand was still on the phone, the 911 line still open. The operator's voice faintly echoed, "Sir, officers are seconds away. Do not engage. Keep the child safe." The boy whispered something then so quiet only Keanu could hear. His eyes widened slightly, and for the first time, true shock flickered across his face. He glanced back at the man in yellow, then down at the child, then back again. The words the boy had just revealed weren't just about being taken. They hinted at something darker, something far beyond a single abduction. The sirens stopped outside. The squeal of tires and the heavy slam of car doors followed. Boots pounded the pavement. Police officers burst through the McDonald's entrance, guns drawn, shouting commands. "Drop your hands. Step away from the booth." The man in yellow froze. His eyes darted between the officers and Keanu, fury burning hotter with every second. For a terrifying moment, it seemed like he might make a reckless move. Keanu shielded the boy tighter, whispering, "Stay calm. Help is here." But then, just as the officers advanced, the man in yellow smirked, leaned close enough for only Keanu to hear, and hissed a chilling sentence that made Keanu's blood run cold. "This boy isn't the only one." The meaning of those words would change everything. The restaurant was chaos, shouts from officers, cries from terrified families, the metallic clatter of chairs pushed aside in panic. The man in yellow was forced to the ground, his wrists yanked back into handcuffs. Even then, he fought like a wild animal, snarling, spitting, eyes blazing with something far more dangerous than anger. Keanu stayed in the booth, arms wrapped protectively around the little boy. His face was pale, his jaw tight, his mind racing with the words still echoing in his head. "This boy isn't the only one." Two officers approached carefully, lowering their weapons. "Sir, are you all right? Is the child safe?" Keanu nodded, but his eyes never left the boy's trembling face. "He's safe with me," Keanu said softly. "But he's been through something no child should ever go through." The boy clutched Keanu's shirt with tiny fists, refusing to let go, even as the police gently tried to speak to him. His voice cracked when he finally whispered, "They took me. And they said they'll come back for more kids." The officers exchanged grim looks. One of them muttered into his radio, his expression hardening. The casual fast food restaurant no longer felt like McDonald's. It had become the center of something much bigger, something darker. The man in yellow, now pinned by two officers, laughed bitterly. "You think this ends with me? You have no idea what's coming." His voice dripped with arrogance, as if he knew secrets no one else dared to speak. Keanu's eyes narrowed. For years he had played heroes on screen, but here, in this small-town McDonald's, he found himself facing a situation more terrifying than fiction. And the most haunting part was that this was real. The boy tugged at his sleeve again, whispering through sobs, "There's a place? I can show you." Keanu leaned closer, brushing the boy's hair back from his face. "What place?" he asked gently. The boy's next words made the color drain from Keanu's face for the second time that day. "Where they keep the others." A chill spread through the room. Even the officers seemed to pause, staring at the child with wide eyes. The man in yellow stopped laughing and glared at the boy with hatred. "Don't you dare," he began, before the officers shoved him toward the door. Keanu knew then that this wasn't over. The boy's whisper wasn't just a plea for help, it was a key to uncovering something far more sinister. And as the officers led the man in yellow away, Keanu tightened his grip on the child and quietly made a vow. "This ends tonight." The flashing red and blue lights from the squad cars painted the McDonald's walls in eerie colors as officers pushed the man in yellow into the back of a cruiser. His laughter echoed, a sound so unnerving it silenced the crowd that had gathered outside. Parents clutched their children tighter. Employees huddled behind the counter. Inside, Keanu sat with the boy tucked against him, refusing to let go. The child was still shaking, but his voice had steadied, as if he knew this was the moment to speak the truth. "They bring kids to a place," he whispered, his wide eyes glistening. "It's not far. I heard them talking. A big building with red doors." One of the detectives knelt by the booth, scribbling notes furiously. "Son, can you tell us where? Can you show us?" The boy nodded timidly, his small hand clinging to Keanu's arm as if he were the only safe anchor in the world. "I'll go, but only if he comes with me," the child said, pointing at Keanu. The room went quiet. The detective raised his brow. "Sir, you don't have to." But Keanu cut him off. "I'm not leaving him. If he trusts me, I'll go." His voice carried the same calm steeliness that millions had seen in his films, but this wasn't acting. This was real, raw resolve. The boy reached into his pocket then, pulling out something that made everyone lean in. It was a crumpled napkin from the restaurant, covered in scribbles, numbers, strange marks, and a shaky drawing of a door. Keanu took it gently, unfolding it with care. "He was smart enough to write this down," he said softly. He knew someone would help him. The detective studied it, his expression grim. Coordinates. A warehouse by the industrial district. He looked up, urgency blazing in his eyes. "If what this kid says is true, we don't have much time." Through the glass windows, the man in yellow caught Keanu's gaze from the back of the police car. Despite the cuffs, despite the officers holding him, his lips curled into a sinister smile. He mouthed something slowly, deliberately. Too late. A chill ran down Keanu's spine. He looked at the boy, who buried his face into his chest again, whispering, "Please. We have to hurry." Keanu stood, still holding the napkin in one hand and the boy with the other. He turned to the detective. "Then let's not waste another second. Take us there." And with that, the actor who once played heroes on screen was about to step into the darkest role of his life, this time, not for a movie, but for real. The convoy of police cruisers tore through the night, sirens cutting through the silence of the sleeping town. In the back seat of an unmarked SUV sat Keanu Reeves, the little boy pressed tightly against his side. The napkin with the hand-drawn map rested in Keanu's hand, its crumpled edges lit by the faint glow of the dashboard. The boy pointed out the window with trembling fingers. "That way. It's past the train tracks." His voice was thin but determined, like a child who had carried a secret too heavy for far too long. The detective in the front seat glanced back. "Mr. Reeves, I need you to understand when we get there, it's dangerous. We can't guarantee your safety." Keanu's eyes never left the boy. "I'm not here for me. I'm here for him and for whoever else they've taken." Minutes later, the vehicles slowed. The industrial district loomed ahead, silent and empty. Rows of warehouses stood like giants in the dark, their windows blacked out, their metal siding rusted with age. And then, just as the boy had described, they saw it. A massive building with 2 red doors at its front. Every officer froze. Even hardened detectives felt a ripple of unease. The air was too still, the silence too perfect. The SWAT team took their positions, rifles raised. An officer spoke into his radio, Unit Alpha in position. Awaiting breach order. Inside the SUV, the boy gripped Keanu's sleeve tighter. His eyes filled with tears. That's it. That's where they took me. His voice broke on the last word. Keanu bent down, placing a steady hand on the boy's shoulder. You're safe now. You did the hardest part, showing us the way. The commanding officer gave the signal. Go, go, go. The red doors were blown open with a deafening crash. Officers poured inside, shouting commands, their flashlights slicing through the darkness. Keanu stayed back at first. The boy held safely in the arms of a child services officer, but something inside him refused to stay put. Through the broken doorway, he could see glimpses of what lay within. Rows of crates, chains bolted to the floor, and a chilling sound that made his stomach tighten. Whimpers. Children's whimpers. And then a deep mocking voice from the shadows. Well, the movie star and the boy. You brought the whole circus with you. The officers fanned out, searching the maze of metal and concrete. But Keanu knew that voice wasn't coming from someone afraid of being caught. It was confident, calculated, as if they had been waiting for this moment all along. The boy clung to the child services officer, eyes wide with terror. That's him, the one who gave the orders. And in that instant, Keanu understood. The man in yellow hadn't been lying. He wasn't the mastermind. He was just a piece of something much larger. And now the real puppeteer had stepped onto the stage. The warehouse echoed with shadows and whispers. Officers swept through the corridors, their flashlights landing on faces, children huddled in corners, chained but alive. The whimpers grew louder, desperate but full of hope as the red doors swung wider and rescue poured in. Keanu stood just behind the first line of police, his heart pounding. He had never been more certain of anything in his life. He had to see this through. The boy's small hand clung to his sleeve, refusing to let go even as child services tried to guide him out. Then came the voice again, smooth, calm, and terrifying. You've ruined years of work, Mr. Reeves. Do you have any idea what you've just stepped into? From the shadows, a tall man emerged, his face hidden by the brim of a hat, his smile thin and cruel. He wasn't panicking, he was confident. Too confident. The commanding officer raised his weapon. Hands where I can see them. But the man only laughed, spreading his arms wide as if mocking the entire squad. You think you've won? This place is just one of many. Keanu's fists tightened. He stepped forward, locking eyes with the man. His voice was calm, but there was fire in it. Not tonight, not these kids. It ends here. The man tilted his head, smirked, and then tried to slip back into the shadows. But he never made it. Officers swarmed him, forcing him to the ground in a storm of shouts and handcuffs. For the first time, the arrogance faded from his face as the cold metal snapped shut around his wrists. Behind them, children were being freed, dozens of them, scared but safe at last. Some were so weak they had to be carried out, others clung to officers, crying into their shoulders. The boy who had whispered to Keanu watched it all, his eyes wide, his small lips curling into the first genuine smile he had shown in days. He turned to Keanu, voice trembling but strong. You kept your promise. As the last of the children were carried into the night, wrapped in blankets, the first light of dawn broke over the horizon. The red doors of the warehouse stood open, no longer a place of fear, but a symbol of what had been stopped. Keanu stood silently, watching the sunrise, the boy beside him holding tightly onto his hand. The police chief approached, shaking his head in disbelief. "You know, most people would have walked away. But you," he paused, almost smiling. "You might have just saved more lives than you'll ever know. No child should ever have to whisper for help in fear. Not on my watch. Not ever again." And with that, the nightmare was over. For the world, it became just another headline. But for that little boy and the children freed that night, it was the beginning of a second chance at life. And for Keanu Reeves, it was the day he became a real-life hero.